person that I could introduce that we could have for our prayer breakfast, and the Honorable Tameika Isaac Devine. City Councilwoman Tameika Isaac Devine is a founding partner in the law firm of Jabber and Isaac, PA, where she practices in the areas of real estate, probate, and business transactions. Mrs. Devine is a graduate of Spring Valley High School. She received her undergraduate degree in business management from Hampton University and her Juris Doctorate from the University of South Carolina School of Law. Mrs. Devine is married to Jamie L. Devine, and they are the parents of Tameika, Jade, and Jameson. Their son, James Henry, was born into heaven in August 2014. She's a member of Brooklyn Baptist Church and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Mrs. Devine is the first African-American female to serve on the City Council and the first African-American to be elected at large in 2002. She serves on numerous boards, commissions, and civic organizations. Mrs. Devine serves and contributes to her community in many ways. She is the City of Columbia's spokesperson for Heart Health Awareness Month. She is the founder of the Opportunities Institute, a peak performance consulting, coaching, and public speaking firm that specializes in working with women leaders and mothers. Mrs. Devine has been a champion of many causes, but the development and empowerment of women and youth are causes that touch her at a personal level and include the following: the church's Criminal Domestic Violence Task Force, the Together We Can Project, the Ultimate Wellness Challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, after the singing of the selection by Gloria Bradley, I welcome the Honorable Tameika Isaac Devine.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be here with you this morning, and I thank you so much for allowing me to come and celebrate with you guys for this Women's Empowerment Women's Day brunch. To Pastor Grady and Sister Grady, I've enjoyed meeting them and speaking with them this morning. We have a lot in common. We're going to debate which one went to the real HU. But I thank them, and I appreciate and welcome you to our community. I know you've been here several years, but I know that this powerful, dynamic couple that is leading your church will be a real blessing to our community, and I thank you guys for being here. And to Sister Ella for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. I'm going to tell you, she's a taskmaster and a planner. So she gave me 2 dates and told me which one can you be here. We're going to make sure that we get you here. So I'm glad we were able to connect our schedules for me to be here. And then welcome and thank you for all of you. But I do want to specifically say Sister Robin, who is my middle school classmate. Robin and I go back to way 6th grade. I'm not going to say what year. But we have known each other for many, many years. And of course, Sister Bernadette, who said she actually knew my father and knows my mom for many, many years. So she's known me since I was probably before I knew myself. And so it's an honor to have her introduce me to you guys, because she knows me very well, but of course, knowing me as before I became councilwoman, she knows a lot about me, and so that was the perfect person to introduce me, and I thank you guys. So I am just tasked to talk to you guys for just a few minutes, your Women's Day prayer breakfast message about empowering women, and specifically Sister Ella and I talked about the theme of celebrating our past restoring the present, and maintaining our legacy. And as I was thinking, and be honest with you, I speak a lot, and very rarely do I prepare remarks, because I just truly believe that in the position I have, whether I'm talking at a church, whether I'm talking at a women's seminar, whether my husband and I are talking to couples, or I'm sitting at City Hall speaking to constituents, that I am not here as myself, but I am certainly representing a lot of people. But I truly believe that the Lord will place in me what I need to share. And so I don't typically prepare remarks. I just kind of wait till see what he gives me. And so last night, as my husband routinely does, he looks at me and says, "Well, babe, what you gonna talk about tomorrow?" And I said, "I'm gonna talk about celebrating the past, restoring the present, and maintaining our legacy." And he said, "Well, how are you gonna do that?" I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "I know that something will come to me." And then about 3 o'clock this morning, I had some thoughts, and so I got up this morning and typed up a couple little things, and hopefully you guys will find it a blessing. But as I thought about that theme, and I thought about where we are in our world today, what came to me was Mordecai's statement to Esther in Esther 4:14, and I'm going to read from you from the Message Bible, a small portion of it. And he says, "Don't think that just because you live in the king's house, you're the one Jew who will get out of this alive. If you persist in staying silent at a time like this, help and deliverance will arrive for the Jews from someplace else. But you and your family will be wiped out. Who knows? Maybe you were made queen for just a time as this." And so what I want to talk to you guys about as we think about our theme is we as women, specifically Black women, and you wonderful men who are here who work in partnership with us every day, our role in this community, in this state, in this nation has always been very important. But I will say that we right now have to step up, because right now we were prepared for such a time as this, and to be leading in such a time as this. And so when I think about our past, and I was thinking a little bit last night about the role that we play, and you know, right now everybody's hyped about Black Girl Magic, and you know, where we're going and what we've done. But I have to say, as we celebrate our past, we didn't get here automatically. This isn't a new thing in the last 2 years. And Thursday night I had an opportunity to speak to some students at USC, and the theme of it was, or the title of the panel was called Black Girl Magic. And they were talking about, well, you know, in the last couple of years, this has happened. Last year, and I'm very proud of all my sisters, but last year we had several African-American women elected as mayors of their cities. And so everybody's looking at this time, they're saying, this is so exciting. And I said, you know, we can't lose sight on where we've been and the foundation that was laid to get us to where we are. And so I was thinking about the women's suffrage movement and women having the right to vote. And if you think that although African-American women were not the target of the women's suffrage movement, ironically enough, and actually in reality, we were marginalized through that movement. We fought, we marched, we did everything that we could, but the right to vote and the passage of the 19th Amendment still didn't allow us an opportunity to vote. It made the way and paved the way for white women to vote, but it did not give us as Black women an opportunity to vote. Still, until the reality is, until the 60s and the Civil Rights Movement and everything, did African Americans really become a part of the political process in the way that we needed to. But it doesn't negate our ancestors and the work that they did. I mean, when you look at, you know, the work of Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, you go on to the work of Ida B. Wells and Mary Church Terrell, Ella Baker, Rosa Parks, Angela Davis. We've got sisters who worked in the vineyards for a lot of ways, not just for the right to vote, but the right for our voices to be heard and for us to be part of the process. And so as I think about celebrating our past, we've got to celebrate that and remember that so many people died, fought hard for us to have the opportunity to be part of the process to affect real change in our communities. And so it's incumbent upon me, and it's saddening sometimes when I think about how a lot of times, especially younger people, don't really recognize that right. And I have to recognize someone else in the audience, my friend and my sorrow, Rosalind Glenn, who was here. She shared with me, I had this down, but I didn't have my statistics, and she's a smart woman. And so she gave me the statistic that in South Carolina, we have 1 million African Americans eligible to vote in South Carolina. But only 54% of us vote. Only 54% of us vote. And so as you think about the Harriet Tubmans and Sojourner Truths and everyone who fought for us to have the opportunity to vote, we got to celebrate that past, but in celebrating that past, we also have to appreciate what people have done to give us that opportunity for our voices to be heard. And so as we celebrate it, we can't celebrate them without actually exercising that right to vote. Can you imagine if we took that 54% to even 75%? What changes we can make in this state? You know, I think about, and I said that Rosalind gave me the statistic, and I'm going to give a little plug here. Rosalind, raise your hand for those who don't know you. Rosalind is actually running for state treasurer for the state of South Carolina. And now I won't say if, we're going to claim it for you, when elected, she'll be the first African American female who has been elected to a statewide office in South Carolina. And so if we took that 54% up, just imagine the change that we could for Rosalind's race and for the governor's race, and then eventually, or in this year also for our congressional races, and then in 2 years our presidential race and our Senate races. And so I say that, you know, of course, as a political junkie, a person who's elected, you know, I'm not here to give you a political stump speech, but what I'm telling you is that when we think about affecting change and going back to the next part of restoring our present, y'all, this is such a time as this we were prepared for. We got to make some changes if we are going to get some change for our communities, for our children, for our families, and that starts with voting. So going and restoring our present, and that song was really important, but I wanted to just share with you, there are so many things that I could pick out about what's wrong with our country right now. We would be here until June 25th, I think, if I brought you everything that was wrong with our country right now. But I just wanted to share a couple things, because as I think about restoring our present and, more importantly, maintaining our legacy, when I think about our legacy, I think about our children. You know, I think about my 3 children and the community and the world that they're growing up in and will be living in, and what we're leaving for them. I think about your children and your grandchildren. We've got to maintain our legacy. We've got to build something that leaves them something to be proud of, leaves them something that they can thrive and excel and do great things in. And so going back to voting, and what I shared with the young ladies Thursday night, somebody asked me about the recent race in Alabama and black women and the way we came out and supported Doug Jones there and made him, added him to the U.S. Senate. But that wasn't new, and I shared that to them. I said, you know, it's funny to me that people are now recognizing that we are some bad women, you know, that we got our thing going on, and that we actually can really play a major role. But it's not new. And I did this morning pull some statistics. In 2008 and 2012, black women voted at a higher rate than any other group. In 2012, the last election of President Obama, 74% of eligible black women went to the polls, and then 96% of them voted for Barack Obama. So I say, of course, we wouldn't have had our first black president if we didn't come to the polls. And so voting for president is important, But I'm gonna tell you, when we come to the polls, we can vote, we can elect our mayors and our council people and our school board members and our, House of Representatives, our state senators, our statewide officers. And so such a time as this is for us to really say, okay, where is our power? Our power isn't voting, but we've got more than just voting. We got other things to do between election days. And so that's what I want to share with you for a few more minutes here. And I'm just going to share with you just a couple things that I just pulled out that I felt need attention. Like I said, I could be here till June talking about all the things that I think are wrong. But, as a parent, as a mom, particularly I got to talk to you guys about education. The state of South Carolina, we are 25 years after the lawsuit was brought to bring equity into our education system in South Carolina. And still, our state representatives and senators are not fully funding education. We have children still going to schools in rural areas of South Carolina, but also in urban areas of South Carolina who don't have books. We have schools we have children going to schools that have leaks in them, that don't have working heat all the time. We have school buses, y'all. Y'all have seen the debate about the school buses, and thankfully, our legislature overrode our governor's veto so that we could get some new buses. But they shouldn't have to. We should have a governor in place that actually understands how important it is for our children to have reliable buses to get to school. I mean, I'll share with you as a parent, now in this day and age, we have all this technology, so our school texts us every day. So I get a text from the school every day, and my child, I pick her up so she doesn't ride the bus, but we have that opportunity. She has that luxury that she has parents with cars, but not every child, even here in the urban district, have that ability, and so they rely on those buses. I'm gonna tell you, at least once a week I get a text from the school telling me that a bus is broken down and so the children will be late getting home. And so you got some children in rural areas of Columbia, because we still have rural areas of Columbia. People think, okay, they're a capital and it's urban, but we have some kids who are on a bus on a good day, 45 minutes to get to or from a school. The day the bus breaks down, they may not get to school till 7:30 and get home till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And so we have some huge issues, and so we have to make sure that issue is getting addressed. Poverty is another thing that is really, really near and dear to my heart, and as your councilwoman, I've been making sure that I elevate that conversation on the city level so that what we can do, we're affecting our brothers and sisters, our residents who really have a need as far as coming out of poverty. But just to share with you a couple statewide statistics, that South Carolina's poverty rate is the 9th highest in the nation. We have more than 860,000 South Carolinians who live below the poverty level, which for a family of 4 is around $23,500. So we have 800, almost 1 million South Carolinians who are living below the poverty level. The proportion of children under the age of 18 that are living in poverty statewide is 27.5%. And I'll share with you Richland 1, that's the school district that the city of Columbia basically has, and then Richland 2, which is the northeastern part of the city. 78% of the kids in Richland 1 live in poverty. 58% of the kids in Richland 2 live in poverty. So when you think about our Midlands area, we've got somewhere between 58 and 78% of our children living in poverty. And so as Sister Grady and I were talking about, when you think about all the things that children come to school with and maybe why they are challenged to learning, and by no means am I saying poverty is the only thing, because there are lots of other things, but it could be a factor as to why our children are challenged to learn. They are able to learn, they're capable of learning, but are we, as the adults, providing them the resources and the support necessary in order for them to learn? And so that is a question we have. And then, of course, the last couple of weeks we've talked a whole lot, and so I have to add with you, you think about the school shootings. 2018 alone, there have been over 8 school shootings in this country. I mean, we just hit March. How crazy is that? That we're sending children to school, we're expecting them to learn, we're not providing them the resources to learn, we're not providing them transportation to get to and from school, and then we're not protecting them while they're in schools. And then we have elected officials who won't take a stand against reasonable gun laws. They're proposing that we arm our teachers, and I asked Sister Grady, how do you feel about us giving you a gun and sending you to a first grade classroom? You know? So we won't do that, but then you've got, like, and this is in South Carolina, thank goodness, but this could have happened in South Carolina. In Georgia, the legislature this week passed sanctions against Delta Airlines, who said, okay, we're not going to give discounts to NRA members. I mean, that's crazy. First of all, if you're a member of NRA, you can pay the same price for a plane ticket as I do. I mean, what gives you the right to have a discount? But because Delta Airlines stood up and said, okay, we're not going to do that because we want to take a stand against this, the legislature, that it's hard to pass anything, and those of you who watch legislatures, you know, whether it's South Carolina or anywhere else, it's hard to pass laws. I mean, because they have to do all things, but they pass a law very quickly to sanction one of their major employers. So some of these families that they talk about that you want to address families, this is a major employer, and they're going to sanction this major employer because this employer is just saying we want to have equal playing field, and we want to take a stand against the NRA. So, I mean, it's just amazing. And then I just thought, if you think about the laws that people are pushing back against these other laws, kids who cannot vote and cannot drink can buy a gun. I mean, it's unconscionable to me. I can't imagine that we have people who are in position who don't believe that you should allow at least a level playing field, that if you can't vote, you can't drink, then you can't buy a gun. That makes sense. And so those are just a couple of things. That's not the whole list. Those are a couple of things that the folks that we elect deal with, and that we have to make sure not only do we vote for the right people and put them in office, but that we hold them accountable while they're there, so that the people there will make the right decisions. So my takeaways for you today is just a couple things. Again, number one, I've talked a lot about it, so I won't spend a whole lot, but about voting. We have to vote, and it's not just important that we vote, but that we get other people to vote. If we're at that 54%, we know that we can raise that level. Because like I said, we're some bad sisters. So we can get our husbands, our children, our parents, our community members, the other moms at our flower and garden clubs and our sororities. We need to make sure that we are getting people to vote, getting people out there and making sure that their voices are heard. Every single election, I can't stand when I hear people say, oh, this is a very important election. Every single election is important because everyone who's elected makes decisions that affect our lives. So we need to make sure we're voting, and we're voting for the right people. 2, we need to stay engaged in the process. So once we vote somebody in, whether we voted for them or not, they represent us. And so we need to stay engaged in the process. I can't tell you how many times there's something happening in Congress, and I talk to people and I send out something saying, please make sure you call Senator Graham or Senator Scott and do whatever. And I have people tell me, well, they're not going to listen. You're a South Carolinian, they represent you. It doesn't matter if you voted for them or not. They're your senators, and they need to hear from you. And I'll tell you, as an elected official, it is so easy for us to say, well, I didn't hear anything about that issue, so people must not care. And then they vote the other way. And so in order for them to know what you guys, what we as South Carolinians believe and feel, we need to communicate with them. We need to email them, we need to call them, we need to go see them when they're in the state. If we're in Washington, you need to go see them. You need to make sure that they hear your voices. Now granted, they're not always going to listen to us, but they can't say that someone didn't contact them. I'll tell you specifically, when Betsy DeVos was being confirmed, I contacted both of them. Well, I'll give you 2 instances. So when Loretta Lynch was being confirmed, I contacted both of them. Never heard from Senator Scott, to be honest with you. He never heard back. But I did hear from Senator Graham, and I was glad to get his response. For Betsy DeVos, when she was being confirmed, both of them responded to me. I'm gonna tell you, I didn't like neither one of their answers. and honestly, I be honest, I laugh. I took issue with a couple of their comments because I'm a mom and I have kids, and neither one of them have kids in public school, and so I thought that it was very interesting, the response that I got, at least from one of them. But at least they did respond, and I give them that credit. But they could not say that they did not hear from someone in South Carolina about the confirmation of our new U.S. Department Secretary of Education. And so they might have heard from a couple people, but they needed to hear from all of us. And not just our state senators, but our governor. Everyone needs to hear from us. So I want to encourage you guys to stay engaged in the process. I just participated in a meeting maybe about a month or so ago of a group of black women, and we talked about, and everybody was talking about the Alabama vote and Doug Jones. And actually, ironically enough, someone got Doug Jones to call into our meeting, and he talked about the importance that, you know, women played in his vote and how we could do the same thing in South Carolina this year, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that I shared with the group when they were talking about this year's election and getting people engaged, because we've got all statewide officers are up, all House members are up, and so they were talking about getting people to vote. I told them that not only do we need to get people engaged to vote, get voting, but stay engaged in the process, which means we need to evaluate our legislators, our governors, everyone while they're in office, our city council people, our county council people, while they're in office. What are you doing for me? What's your position on this topic? And then how can I communicate with you to make sure that you are armed with the right information to make the right decisions? And so I encourage you guys, let's stay engaged. And then lastly, I want to tell you that we need to continue to pray. Honestly, we got to pray. We got to pray for those who are in power, whether we voted for them or not, whether they're Republican, Democrat, whoever they are. We got to pray for them, because y'all know we know the power of prayer. Amen. And there are people that sometimes might go and they might be deciding a particular issue, and at the last minute, they might change their mind. And people are like, oh gosh, I wonder why that person changed their mind. I don't ever wonder, because I said, I know my God answered the prayers. And so we can pray for those in office. We need to pray for them that they make the right decisions, that they're educated about the decisions that they're making for, and we got to pray for their hearts. We got to make sure that they are doing the right thing for the right reasons. And I'll tell you, I've been here for 16 years, and I've dealt with people on all levels of elected office. I'll tell you, we got some folks who are in powerful positions who are not in it for the right reasons. They make decisions based on who their friends are, who's giving them money, where they live. They don't make decisions for all of us. And so we got to make sure that we got people in there who are making the right decisions for all of us. But more importantly, we got to pray that if they're not there, that gets handled, and then trust that God, and trust and believe that God's going to get taken care of it. And then, and I said lastly, pray for those in office, pray that they make the right decision, and then definitely pray that the decisions that they make affect all of us in the way that they're supposed to. You know, there are decisions sometimes that people make, our elected officials, our appointed officials, our leaders, whether it's our, you know, our church leaders, our school leaders, they make decisions, and they might make them all in good conscience, hoping that it's the right decision, and they might make it thinking that one thing's going to happen. But y'all probably been in situations where a decision that's been made, and you think it's the right decision, the effect of that decision isn't what we hoped it would be. And it sometimes hurts more than it helps. And so what we want to do also is pray that the results are the results that people need to have. And so if we trust and believe that God will work it out, we know that he will, but we got to keep that prayer process. So as I close and I'm about to take my seat, I want to just share with you, or just urge you guys that as you think about our preparation and the time that we've been called to serve. Right now, I won't say more importantly than ever, because there's always something going on in our communities. There's always something going on in our world. And so there's always a need for us to be a part of the process and make our voices heard. But what I would ask is that this time is just as important as any other time. You know, it may not be a time where people are denied the right to vote. It may not be a time where there's lynchings happening. It may not be a time where we think is as bad as things have been in the past. But I'm gonna tell you, it's the same war, it's just a different time. So we gotta use the warfare, the armor that God has given us, and we gotta be ready to be on that battlefield, because we've been prepared for such a time as this. And so as we think about our role, as we move out into our respective communities, I want to challenge you guys to think about the three things: the voting, the staying engaged, and the prayer. I know that I heard that most of you are on the Daniel fast. I'm fasting right now as well. I'm not doing the Daniel fast, but so mine, I guess I'll call it the Tameika fast. It's just something I kind of created myself, but I'm fasting. I'm doing my protein shakes in the morning and the evening, just drinking water, or morning and lunch, and then in the evening I eat with my family. But part of it is my reflection time. I pray and I meditate and I ask God where He wants me and where I need to go. And then as He deposit things in my heart, I'm adding to my list, my prayer list of the things that are out there that might not be things that I think that I have direct control over, but it's something He's placed in my spirit and it needs to be added to my list. And so I want to challenge you guys, if you don't already, as you're doing your fast, pull out your prayer list and ask God to have this message speak to you, and figure out what you need to put on the prayer list, but where you can be effective. And that could be running for office, because we know we need more women in elected office. It could mean supporting great candidates who are running for office and making sure they're elected. It could be marching. It could be writing letters. But whatever it is, every single one of us sitting in this room has a role to play. We've been prepared for this time. We need to put it on our prayer list. And then we just need to trust and believe that God has empowered us to do what we need to do to make sure that things get done. So thank you guys so much for allowing me to be with you today. God bless you. And please know that if there's anything that I can do to continue to be information source, encouragement, empowerment, connect you with somebody, know that I'm here as your councilwoman to do that. So good morning, God bless.